Are you constantly bombarded by distractions? You wake up relatively early, determined to have a productive day. You just showered, had some healthy breakfast, and then sat down to be productive. Bills cannot pay themselves after all. After you fire up your laptop, a torrent of email notifications raid down your notifications bar. The time is 7:30 a.m. According to your plan and your day's timetable, you'd like to get started on some work your boss sent your way by 8 a.m. You have set for yourself a deadline of 5 p.m. So it's 7:30 a.m. and your emails look inviting. Medium has sent you their top picks for the day, each of which has caught your interest. You open 5 new tabs. It won't take more than 30 minutes, you tell yourself. By 8 a.m., you'll be on track. 3.5 hours later, after reading the review of this superb sci-fi series that recently premiered on Netflix, you remember that your goal for the day was not to somehow go from Medium through Twitter to BuzzFeed and then to the New York Times, reading reviews. At that moment, you're likely to be feeling guilty for not resisting the distractions that have led you to wasting 3 hours of time you could have been productive. Distractions are something that most of us deal with every day in our lives. Can you identify the distractions that you're bombarded with daily? Do you know the sources of the distractions that you encounter? Are distractions good or bad? Are they both good and bad? How do you deal with distractions that impede your productivity? What about distractions at work? Well, in today's video, we'll be talking about distractions and more distractions. How can you take back your life from the rut that has been created by distractions around you? Understanding distractions. When asked to identify some distractions that we encounter every day, most of us are likely to give the same answers. On Monday, Derek was distracted from the road while driving because his attention was caught by the new billboard that got put up at the side of the road on his route to work. The billboard featured a beautiful model, little surprise there that Derek's attention was unfocused. Philip, on the other hand, doesn't get distracted by billboard models much. His is a different affliction. He keeps finding himself lost in his thoughts when he should be concentrating on his work. It actually usually starts pretty easily. At their open space office, he could become unfocused and have his eyes shift through the room, after which he'll notice and acknowledge that Lucy has a new hairstyle, his boss is particularly loud today, and that Grace seems to have had a late night. How do these distractions differ? What about mind wandering? Is it any different from being distracted? There are 2 ways you can get distracted. The first is similar to the beginning of the example above, when your attention is caught by an email notification, when you should be getting set up and ready for the work you're supposed to be doing. In this case, you have an attention grabber, like the email notifications or the beautiful model on the roadside billboard during Derek's commute to work. Therefore, the attention of your mind instantly shifts to the new arrival in Mindtown, in this case, the distraction. The other way you can get distracted is by simply becoming unfocused. In this case, like with Philip, you do have something you should be focusing on. In this case, the work he's supposed to be doing, but you can't quite focus. Because of the inability to focus on your work, distraction is invited in, which is why Philip's mind will acknowledge and notice some mundane things around the office. Mind wandering, on the other hand, occurs when you're not supposed to be really concentrating on anything, and you let your mind loose, thinking about nothing in particular and training your focus nowhere. It's almost like mindfulness, but that's a video for another day. Mind wandering is the good kind of distraction, since while you may be working on autopilot with an end in mind, for example, when cleaning dishes, you're not really expected to be focusing on any one thing. Mind wandering is good for slowing down the brain and spurring our creativity. But it's incredibly important to decide whether your mind's wandering or whether you're actually distracted. So, let's talk about the main source of distractions. Noise distractions. You're in the middle of a sweet slumber. You may be having a good dream. You aren't sure, but all you know is that you're feeling good and want that to last for a long time. And then, a shrill sound disturbed you just as it was getting better. I don't know if it's okay to call your morning alarm a distraction, but the point is, that's what a noise distraction is like. There's sounds in your surroundings that are coming to your ears without your own volition. In the office, it could be the sound of fingers moving on keyboards, printers spewing out paper, and colleagues arguing about some player from last night's football game. In a train, it could be the hum from the movement of the locomotive on its tracks, voices here and there conversing in low to moderate volumes, and the sound of fighter jets flying low outside on their training exercises. There are noise distractions that you can control, and there are those that you can't. If you're looking to have less noise distraction because you're trying to be more productive at a particular point in time, then you can block out the noise that you can control. For example, you can switch off the TV if it's distracting you in the house. You can listen to music on earphones to block out the background noise in the train and the possible sounds of the flying jets. If it is in the office, and noise distraction is a sure way for you to get your eyes away from the computer and your mind to the people who are arguing about football, buy earplugs or invest in a good instrumental playlist that you can listen to instead. Personally, I like Chopin and Bach. Our phones. As cliche as this might sound, the advent of our smartphones has probably done as much good as it has done harm. Smartphones are the black hole of distractions due to the sheer number of places you can get lost in there. Do you have reliable internet? Good for you. Chances are that you'll find yourself in the middle of social media pages belonging to one celebrity or another, or on one belonging to a childhood friend with whom you did some dramatic stuff together way back when. You could also be in your search engine reading web pages of conspiracy theories, latest movie reviews, or pirating the latest copy of your favorite author's book. Not that I'd ever do that. And let's not get started on cat videos. This is just the tip of the distraction iceberg that can be found inside your phone. Online and offline games, quick messaging applications, and planners and budgeting applications can be found on your phone. As such, it's become impulsive for most of us to reach for our phones every few minutes to check if we have messages or likes or if our loud neighbor indeed went for his fancy vacation. He did. Checking our phones regularly and completing small tasks like liking Susan's post are a source of dopamine, which is why we have an impulse to pick up our phones automatically after a short time of not using it. To reduce the frequency with which you're distracted by your phone, first, quiet your notifications by switching them all off or using your Do Not Disturb mode. This ensures that you're not distracted by the sound of the notification getting into your phone, and this makes it less likely for you to pick it up. Out of sight, out of mind. Uninstalling applications you rarely or never use is another way to reduce the frequency with which your phone distracts you. For example, if you rarely use a social media application on your phone, remove it, as it becomes one less application you might be tempted to use as a distraction. On the other hand, if you have an application you use regularly, a little too regularly by your calculation, you may choose to use an app blocker to limit its use to a few hours every day. Cognitive distractions. Cognitive distractions are those that are born of our own minds. For example, you may be focused on writing a monthly report on your desk on a Thursday morning, when you remember that the next day is your birthday and that you'll be holding a party. So, you get excited and start planning your party in your mind, instead of doing the monthly report that's due in an hour or so. Consciously getting your mind back on track is the way to deal with cognitive distractions. This means that if you find yourself thinking about your birthday, consciously pull yourself back by bringing the computer screen into focus and leading your mind towards the numbers that are displayed thereon. Hunger. One underrated source of distraction for most people is hunger. Your brain needs twice as much energy in order to function as other cells in the body. When you don't eat, your brain slows down and your focus shifts away from the work you're doing, and this makes you easily susceptible to distractions around you. Sometimes the type of food we consume also works against us. For example, sugary foods may give you a rush soon after you eat them, but when the energy crashes, we're left unable to do anything more. In this regard, first, ensure that you don't try to power through an assignment for hours on end without taking a break in the middle to get something to eat. You're likely to waste all those hours. Secondly, ensure that you eat foods that are a healthy combination of proteins and carbs that give your body energy that will be sustained over a period of time, not one that will lead to a lengthy crash afterward. Clutter. A messy desk isn't necessarily a source of distraction for some folks, but it may be a bother for others enough that it distracts them. Your brain is programmed in such a way that it responds to your surroundings. Therefore, surroundings that are not in order may clutter your brain as well. To reduce the likelihood of your brain being distracted by the clutter in your surroundings, you can either become a minimalist in your workspace, or you can organize it. The things placed on your desk should be there only because they're needed, and they're arranged in a manner that is easy to access and use. In a nutshell, here are the rules to dealing with distractions around you, either in your workplace or your work desk at home. 1. If you're in control of the distraction, cut it off completely. Case in point, if your email notifications are distracting you in the office, turn them off. Secondly, if you cannot control the distraction, get into the habit of consciously pulling your mind back from the distraction. If it's possible, completely block out the distraction. Case in point, when your colleagues are arguing about a football player and you have no interest in joining them, use a pair of earplugs to block them out. Alternatively, you can tune them out and consciously bring your focus back to the task at hand. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please share the video with a friend or two and leave your thoughts below. With that said, I will see you all in the next one.
Have you ever wanted to make passive income, but you felt like you didn't have the money it took to get started? Well, in this video, I'll share with you 7 passive income ideas that take little money to get started.